Welcome to Inquiry into Self. There's a really powerful practice of being completely transparent regarding things that we consider our shadow. And that's part of the deconditioning that allows those habits that create this sense of isolation, this sense of needing something, this sense of harm and fear to drop away. So here's an example. I was having this frustration. It just seemed like I wanted my husband to do more than he was doing, right? And I had worked on it, gotten over it, worked, and then it came back. Worked on it, gotten over it, then it came back. Worked on it, gotten over it, and then it came back. I spoke to a friend and just was totally transparent that this was going on. And as I said that, as I admitted it, it was almost like a confessional sort of situation, where I did it lightheartedly. It wasn't, this somber thing, like, oh, what have I done? But it was really feeling the impact of this way of being I'd been having. So I shared it with a friend. And he laughed along, and that was it. She didn't even say anything about it. But as I said it, it was like new ears could hear it. And as I said it, from this new perspective, I saw I was wasting an amazingly good marriage by having these moments of frustration. Now, in my own processing, yeah, that perspective had been there a slight bit, but it had not carried so much weight. But in that moment of transparency, it was like I stepped outside and I heard it from someone else. And then it became just so clear what an amazing gift I have and how it will be gone before I know it, and I could be wasting enjoying it with my complaint. And this process of admitting something to someone else that just doesn't feel like our most authentic self. I wasn't doing it in a way of criticizing myself. This was not becoming a bully to myself. It was simply an opening, a lighthearted, and this is what keeps showing up here. But it was, very genuine. It was very open-hearted, totally undefended. Very much, here's what keeps happening. And with that vulnerability came another energy that just came in. And that level of vulnerability is so powerful in our deconditioning. It sets the stage for a shift. So often we want to shift, and yet we're holding our energy in because we're not letting enough light into the situation. And so how can anything shift? We're holding it so tightly. But simply exposing it in the most vulnerable way allows the light and the space and the love and the seeing and the wisdom to come in. There's this other situation I had. I had somebody who was coming as a volunteer at work just to get an idea of what being an ultrasound tech would be like. She's early on in her college, and so I was going to spend these, whatever it was, 4 hours with her, and that was all I'd probably ever see her. And she's very young. So she came, and she had a lot of makeup. I don't know how you say what is considered a lot of makeup, right? But, it takes her at least an hour. She told me how long it was. It was at least an hour a day to put it all on. And when I first saw her, that's all I could see. All I could see was makeup. It was, I couldn't see the person behind the makeup. It was just in my face. And, I was interacting with her. I was going to be interacting with her pretty steadily over the next 4 hours. So I didn't really see how I was going to retreat and find some kind of grounding to get a different perspective. Like, this was the loud perspective coming in that it was too much makeup, and um, and I didn't know what to do. So I decided this is the moment to try the transparent route, because otherwise this whole 4 hours is going to be wasted. How in the world am I going to interact with her if all I'm seeing and hearing is this voice? So I thought, okay, I got to be transparent. And I looked her in the eyes and I said, "You wear a lot of makeup. What appeals to you about wearing so much makeup?" And she explained that she thinks it's just a generational difference, and that actually she doesn't wear that much makeup because it only takes her, whatever it was, an hour to put it on. And she has friends that takes, 2.5 hours to put on their makeup. So it was great. Just as it became this simple topic, I got another perspective. In her eyes, she doesn't wear nearly as much as other people. And, you know, she saw it as a generational thing. Like, that was a great interpretation. Here I am being the old crow, whatever that's called. you know, the old fart who doesn't like what the young people are doing nowadays. That's a possible interpretation, right? Anyways, just by simply saying it up front, and as just an open way as I could. You wear a lot of makeup. What appeals to you about it? What do you like how it makes you look? How do you like how it makes you look? I just was asking to hear, this is obviously something she invests in. I want to hear how she values it, why it's important to her, how it serves her. And it just helped flesh it out, and then it was no longer a topic. And we went on. The 4 hours went very quickly, and even though there were some periods where we didn't have any patients to see, I was able to help her practice learning a little bit about ultrasound by having her scan me. She greatly appreciated that because nobody else had been doing that with her. So it was pretty amazing, actually. At the end, she felt like she had gotten an extra good 4 hours. And that only happened because I was able to be transparent and let a lot of light come into this belief and open it up, air it out, and then we were able to move on. So that transparency is so helpful. And the more we can do it from a place of curiosity and wonder, true curiosity about the other person, true curiosity about ourselves, in a lighthearted way, the easier that's going to be. If we're being transparent, but we're still trying to reinforce our story, we're still trying to reinforce our beliefs, we're justifying ourselves, explaining, that's not actually being transparent. I'm talking about that vulnerable, here's the state of things. I don't know what to do about it. You hear that openness? Here's the state of things. I don't know what to do about it. That openness allows us to create the light that comes in. Anytime we have repeating judgments towards somebody else, it creates that openness. When we just allow that criticism to not be owned, as in thinking that it's right. We own it in a vulnerable way, as this was what's here. But rather than thinking, And this is part of how the world should be. This is part of how I should be. You could be thinking about any number of issues that you might have a judgment about, and how somebody takes care of their yard, right? Do they take care of it enough? Do they use too many chemicals? Do they use too much water? Do they use not enough water? We can have all kinds of beliefs, right? And we could just admit, I keep thinking blank, when we are talking to somebody else, or we go to the neighbor themselves. It looks to me like there's a lot of chemicals here. Can you explain how that's working? Or whatever it is, you just bring in the light with the vulnerableness, the curiosity, the willingness to let something become mobile instead of fixed. So the transparency is a great tool because we don't have to do anything but just be honest and open. That's it. We don't have to figure it out. We let the situation bring its natural wisdom by being vulnerable and open. It's not always easy, but it doesn't require us knowing anything or figuring anything out. It doesn't require us to come up with a better interpretation or the new wisdom. Not at all. The situation provides it naturally when we are vulnerable and open. We simply say, this is what's so at the moment, and present it as something that could change. Bringing our curiosity. It's not actually our beliefs ever that's holding us back. It's our fixedness around our beliefs that prevent us from being able to tap into what is. Because what is fundamentally mysterious. And the only way it's fixed is in that it's real, it's now, and it's timeless. In those ways it's fixed. But besides that, it's a mysterious flow. So anything in us that's fixed about anything, is not going to be able to truly open to what the mysterious flow is doing in that arena. But when we allow it to become unfixed, with that willingness and that curiosity and that additional insight from something outside of ourselves, that allows true being's fullest experience flowing in. It's always there. We can't get out of true being. It is inescapable. It is what we are. It is bringing everything up exactly as it wants, including the fixedness. There's nothing wrong with the fixedness. It's just that there's something in us that feels better when we're in touch with true being. And that's because true being seems to like to unravel fixedness. So it brings up fixedness. It brings up the desire to not feel it, to feel the flow again. And then we can be transparent and resume noticing more clearly this mysterious flow. So there's so many ways that we can be more transparent. There's transparency, though, is not about telling somebody else how they should be. That's not being transparent. That's still being fixed. The transparency happens when you tap into what is the underlying fear that makes that demand. So, say I was going to tell my husband about wanting him to do something differently. If I'm telling him, I just keep feeling like you should do such and such. Well, that's not really being in that open, curious place. But if I say, you know, I'm afraid of total chaos overtaking our house because blank and blank doesn't get done. Okay, there we go. My fear of chaos is really the issue here. I'm afraid of our neighbors looking down on us. I'm afraid of us running out of money. Or I'm afraid of whatever it is. When we say what it is that's our underlying fear, rather than what we think the other person should change, now we're tapping into the vulnerability. Now we're at that place where there's openness to come in. So we have to go just a little deeper than the superficial transparency of the first thoughts going through our head. It's got to go a little deeper till we get to the place that's curious, the place that's vulnerable, the place that recognizes it doesn't know. So that's when we become really transparent, really honest. It can also be something that we keep doing for somebody that we really don't want to do anymore. And finally, we go to them, and if we say, I'm sick and tired, I'm not going to do that anymore. Okay. Obviously, there's an option, but that's not tapping into that full vulnerability. That full vulnerability is, I really have been pushing myself more than I want in supporting you. I care about you, and I don't know if you'll realize how much I care unless I push myself this hard. I want you to realize how much I care. But it turns out I'm not able to keep doing this. And I'm hoping that it won't make you angry with me. Can you see the vulnerability that's coming in there? I'm invested in you seeing me as caring. I'm invested in you not being angry with me. I'm invested in getting you to treat me a certain way. And because of that, I've been doing what isn't necessarily authentic for me. When we are open and vulnerable, we really get into what are our subtle motives. Why have we been doing these things that we want to stop doing? Because we want the other person to like us. If we went around to each person and saying, well, I'm actually helping you because I want you to like me. I'm actually wearing these clothes because I want you to think such and such about me. I'm actually blankety blank because I want you to, whatever it is, be there for me. Whatever we're doing to get something from someone else, there's a transparency that happens and a vulnerability that happens when we admit what it is that we want from the other person. Where are we trying to control the situation? And the transparency brings in the light, makes a whole new thing available. So when we're accessing this transparency, we create the opportunity for a full shadow to blossom out into a new level of knowing, a new level of wisdom, a new level of connecting, a new level of insight, a new level of ways of being, so you don't have to keep repeating the same thing we've done. So if this has been helpful for you, please push like and subscribe. And you can think about what are ways that being transparent might open up some pattern that keeps repeating for you.